That's okay. So now you live.
Okay, you're with Third Degree, and we are coming from the underground, the real underground radio, with news, tools, clues, and some moves you can use. Tonight's industry spotlight, we are having a town hall with a special guest, Miss Goldi Gaines. Goldie is Miss Gaines is running for Commissioner of State Lands. Miss Gaines, welcome to the show, and thank you for giving us a little bit of your time.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for having me. And I'm just excited to be in the house today.
Well, excuse me. We're glad to have you. I had a little technical glitch with my phone, so forgive me for that. But we're glad to have you, Miss Gaines. Could you just give the constituents, the people who are tuning in, what we're trying to do with the Real Underground Radio is make sure everybody has a voice and make sure everybody's heard and make sure everybody's engaged, especially in such a critical voting process. Could you just give us a quick rundown of your background so people know who Miss Goldi Gaines is?
Absolutely. So my name is Darlene Goldi Gaines. I am a native of Arkansas, born in Pulaski County, raised in North Little Rock. I attended North Little Rock High, charging Wildcats, still undefeated. From there, I went to Pulaski Technical College, where I got my associates in science. I moved forward to get my baccalaureate in business administration and then my master's in business administration. From there, I moved into the classroom where I operated in the capacity of an adjunct faculty, and I teach higher education at our local colleges. Before that, and also during, I was an employee of the federal government, so I am a formal employee of the federal government for 23 years, advocating for veterans, health care benefits and burial. I resigned that seat in October because I wanted to serve my veterans in a greater capacity. And so I stand before you today as a candidate for Commissioner of State Lands. The Commissioner of State Lands seat is a seat that could greatly impact underserved communities. But sadly, in our past, we have
I
not.
didn't mean to cut you off. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Mhm. Okay.
Go ahead,
But
Miss Gaines. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
okay, no problem. But sadly, we have not seen this seat operating at its maximum capacity. So I'm just going to stop there, Darren, and let you ask me some more questions, I guess. But that's a little bit of
well,
who I
well,
am.
I was going into maybe how that seat affects urban renewal, how that seat may even affect our local neighborhoods because we don't hear a lot about the commissioner for state lands department and the commissioner for state lands seat. We more times in the urban department we hear about mayor, aldermen, things of that nature. But from what I've studied about your position, it is really critical in urban renewal, urban development, and just getting land. Period.
Mhm. So, good question. This seat, and I'm going to explain to you the functions of the seat, and then I want to talk about the piece of the seat again that is underused and have not been used. So 70% of the Commissioner of State Lands job is me managing delinquent real estate across Arkansas, as well as auctioning off state lands. I have jurisdiction over a few of the issues dealing with waterways and then, of course, mineral leasing. Now, there is a unique part of this seat, which consists of housing all of the survey documents, land documents, leading back to the Louisiana Purchase on up to today. But the most vital part of this seat that is definitely hands down unused is the land donation program. So, as Commissioner of State Lands, I have the authority to donate lands to counties, to states, to educational facilities, as well as nonprofits that seek to heighten the quality of Arkansas. Now, you say, how can this seat impact urban renewal? Well, This seat with the land donation program allows me to donate land to those nonprofits that seek to heighten the quality of life in underserved communities. We have an opportunity with this program to revitalize and re-energize underserved communities. We have the power to go in and raise up projects, green spaces, windmill farms, whatever we feel that communities are in need of. We have that opportunity to do that with this seed. Right now, Arkansas has a 16.8% poverty rate, and it is greater than the national average, which is at 14%. So, three of the critical areas that hover over Arkansas is poverty, hunger, and bad health. Well, with the utilization of this seat, the maximum utilization of this seat, we can close that hunger gap. We can shut down the percentile of the poverty, and we can also focus on better health by way of how we grow our foods, and organizations that may seek to do an organic project regarding the foods that we eat. So this seed is very critical. And again, we have an opportunity to change the face of communities and impact the communities directly.
Which leads me into my next question. Could you talk to people about the power of the vote, number one? And it's a two-part question. The power of the vote as well as the power of losing the vote. Because a lot of
Oh,
us,
wow.
and we see so many who have lost it and don't understand how powerful it is to keep that
Mhm.
and the power of it. Could you speak on that for a moment?
Absolutely. And let me first say this: before becoming a candidate, my main position was operating in the background of campaigns. I've always operated as the fields operator of campaigns, making sure that voter registration events were held across the city, canvassing, knocking on doors, holding signs, making sure that people knew who was running for seats and they knew who they should be looking for on the ballot. Now, I will say this: in 2018 election, I focused specifically on felony restoration. And we know that that populace is very underserved. So my focus were those who have felonies, that have paid their dues, they are off parole, they are no longer on paper. I made sure that they received their voice, because your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice here in Arkansas. Many do not realize that the first thing that's taken away from you when you are incarcerated is the power to vote. With that being the first thing that's stripped from you,
True.
you should have some idea of just how important your vote is. They're not stripping from you your rights to get a job or your rights to see your children. They are taking your vote, which is your voice. So when we're looking at what is important, what's critical, it is imperative that we get out and vote. And
I don't
listen,
know what happened.
there's
Okay.
there's
We're
three
back. We had a
parts to
disconnect. I don't know
voting.
what happened, Miss Goldie.
Can you hear me,
Frank, are we
Darren?
clear?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I can hear you clear.
You okay? You okay?
I was just making sure we were loud and clear.
All right. So I want to talk about the process of a vote. Now, when we tell people get
Yes,
out
ma'am.
and vote or register to vote, that's exactly what we say. But in reality, there's three phases to make sure that a vote comes to fruition. The first phase is education. We need to educate our communities and our people on the importance of voting. We need to let them know what can take place when you cast your vote. So we have the education piece. It's important that we talk about it everywhere we go. Secondly, we have the registration piece. And that's when we sit down and actually fill out those 11 questions that's required for you to get your voice to vote. So with the education, we're talking about the importance of your vote. With the registration, we're getting you ready to vote. But the third part of that is mobilization. Okay, what good is it for me to educate you and then registrate you, but then there is no mobilization? In other words, you don't have a ride to the polls. So it's important that we not only just talk about the voter piece, but what that consists of. So it's important that we create programs and we strategize across Arkansas to
Yes,
make
ma'am.
sure that in our 28 Black Belt counties, we make sure that we've created ways for people to get to the polls and actually vote on that day. So when we're looking at our 28 Black Belt counties, we're looking at those 28 counties that are predominantly Black, brown, people of color, or they have a Black mayor. And these are the counties that I'm really focused on this election season, because we learned that Arkansas is not a red state. Arkansas is simply a non voting state. So back in
True.
2009, there was a great exodus from party, and there was a great party divide. But in 2009, people lost their hope. And even stood up against President Barack Obama. So we know that we also lost party members due to backlash. But this is our opportunity to get back up, stand back up, and really fight for our rights as a people. So that voting piece is critical. And I'll say this: your voice and your vote are major. You know, if you don't have your vote, you have nothing. So you can complain about what's going on a county level. You can complain about what's going on a local level. But if you're not getting out to vote, what are you complaining about? If you're not
True.
taking the time to make it to the polls to vote, if you're not taking the time to learn the individuals that are running for these particular seats, then what are you complaining about? So again, that voter registration piece is critical. So we're going to focus on education, voter registration, and mobilization, which equals a vote.
Okay. Well, you kind of answered my next question, and that was to the first time voter, the 17-year-old who's going to be 18 this year, fresh out of high school, probably only had world history and maybe civics, and doesn't even understand that that 4 year gap after voting affects their life as well. Uh, are we doing anything to mobilize the youth, as Puff used to have the rock the vote thing, or things like that? Are we doing anything to reach that strategic demographic of people who just coming out of high school, who kind of on the
Mhm.
fence about, I ain't gonna go vote. There ain't no sense in me going to vote.
Listen, I just want to say this to my millennials: your vote is your voice. I'm running for Commissioner of State Lands to secure a healthy and sustainable Arkansas landscape for you. I'm running to make sure that legacy stays in place. So I need you to do your part. I need you to meet me. Now, you'll see me around your schools throughout Arkansas. You'll definitely see me at the universities. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at A State doing a voter registration. This Saturday, which is tomorrow, I'll be out in a North Little Rock community, 400 East 17th Street in North Little Rock, doing voter registration. We'll be in that community knocking on doors and canvassing, making sure that everyone has an opportunity to vote. My millennials, this is for you. I know that you may feel like society is not listening, but there are those of us that are standing and fighting on your behalf right now. I seek to secure an Arkansas landscape that's sustainable for my children, my children's children, and their children. So, as far as my millennials, my young people right out of high school, I want you to make sure that you register to vote. Always have a seat at the table, because if you're not registered, you don't have a seat at the table. In order for a change to come, you have to have a seat at the table. And you being a registered voter is your seat. You can choose who you want to represent you locally, and you can choose statewide who you want to represent you. So, for those of you that feel like, well, why should I vote? My vote doesn't matter. Nobody listens to me. I want you to shake that mentality, because you have candidates like me and my fellow candidates who care about you and who's actually running in these positions to make sure that you have a secure future.
And before we get out of here, I want to salute you because I seen you at Arkansas Baptist College, which is my alma mater, and I believe you were having a women's empowerment march. So I want to
Absolutely.
salute you. I want to salute you for just touching down at my campus, and I know that you are working diligently to get the millennials involved and show them that they're, as a role model, as a positive Black woman role model. I salute you for that, and I want to give you your flowers for that. Before we go,
Thank you.
though, I've seen that you have the Golden Nugget. The Goldie's Nugget, if I'm saying that correct.
That's
I've
right.
seen it on social media a couple of times where you're giving out real gems, real political gems to
Mhm,
people.
mhm.
Where did you get that notion and idea to come up with that and give that to the people?
Well, I got that notion when looking at this particular seat. You know, historically, for people of color, land has always been an issue. And we see issues such as sharecropping and theft of property. So I felt that it was very important that we begin with that education piece. I want to bring information that's on the inside of the Commissioner of State Lands office to your front door because they understand that when you don't know, you don't know. You know, I think about Big Mama and Big Mama receiving that letter from the Commissioner of State Lands. And I think about the words that are used in that letter, which requires you to have at least a baccalaureate, a bachelor's degree, to truly understand the words that are in those letters. So I want to make sure that not another opportunity is lost, that everyone has an opportunity. As far as I'm concerned, it's all about inclusion, no exclusion. It's time out for that. It's time out for only a small populace of people having information that affects the total state. So I want to make sure that you understand your rights as a new landowner and as a current landowner. So the Goldi Nugget came about with just that need to make sure that transparency is being made ready and available when it comes to our lands and how you go about securing land legacy for your family.
Okay, and when you mentioned Big Mama, if somebody out there, because my grandmother's 82, my grandfather just passed away. He was 104, and these people own land, and they always had stories about how people took land and swindled land and things like that. If somebody had the proper data or information to show that they had land taken from them or stolen, your office will be the agency to come to resolve any issues like that, or maybe even to start helping somebody get the information to resolve that issue.
What we can do, the Commissioner of State Lands, again, is a seat that manages delinquent real estate across Arkansas as well as auction off real estate, state lands. Now, if you are a current owner of land and you have land debt, you have liens, or you have taxes that are due, then I can make sure to educate you on how to go about paying your taxes and receiving your land. So, again, these golden nuggets that I send you weekly, and I encourage you all to follow me on Facebook and begin to listen to the Golden Nuggets because I'm opening up a lot of information that's not readily available to underserved communities. But what I will be able to do for those that have liens and debts, because the office, that's what we do. We contact those individuals that have lien and debt on their property to give them an opportunity to go ahead and resolve that debt. Or, you know, we talked about Big Mama and we talked about 80 and 90 years old. And the children
Yes, ma'am.
supposed to pick up where Big Mama can no longer pick up, making sure that the property tax is paid on the property in a timely manner. You know, every year between October and March 15, that is when it's time for you to pay your property tax. Past March 15, penalties are then brought up against your land. So it's important that you know this, and it's important that family members know exactly what to do to ensure that land legacy takes place in the family. And that land is not lost because our matriarchs are no longer able to carry the torch in the family.
Well, you just answered one of the questions I had in the comments where I was saying, how does your office affect people? But you covered that quite nicely for us. Before we get out of here, Miss Goldie, could you please give everybody your Facebook, your handle if they want to donate or anything to get in touch with you or to get some of those golden nuggets you was just talking about?
Absolutely. I want you to follow me on Facebook, and that's Goldi Gaines. That's GOLDIGAINES, Goldi Gaines on Facebook. You can just follow me there. Every other day, I'm giving out Goldi Nuggets information. I'm being very transparent because that is what we need. You can also donate. You can go to donate to Goldie.com, and that is DONATETOGOLDI.com. And I'm going to ask you to do a reoccurring donation in an amount that you feel that is most meaningful to you. As you already know, a successful campaign is fueled by successful and strong financial support. I have to hit up all 75 counties. Out of the 75, I've made my way to 51 counties, but I need your help to make sure that I get in front of every underserved community to let them know about the opportunity that this seat holds for all people. And my hope and my prayer is that we as a people will stand up and that we will get out to vote so that we can begin to have a major impact in our communities. I want you to be able to see the impact and the change in your community from you voting for me, Goldi Gaines.
Well, I thank you for taking time out. We had one more question in the comments about what about obtaining the mineral rights to land, because a person can still lose their land even if they pay taxes. And I'm sure we could get to the mineral rights, or if they want to go to your website or inbox, that you could facilitate their question a little further. I understand that you
Absolutely.
are at the Democratic Black Caucus tonight. Can you speak on that a little bit?
Absolutely. Now, I think that Shalil Yah,
Yeah.
um, speaking of the mineral rights, when we're looking at land, you have to understand if you purchase a piece of land and that land has minerals on it, there is two separate ownerships. There is a surface ownership and then there's a mineral ownership. Now, of course, you need to make sure that both of those are covered by you. If you choose to sell the minerals that's on your property, then there's a way that you go about doing that. So just know that those are two different ownerships. Some people lose their minerals on their land because they don't know that you have to certify both of those, your surface as well as the minerals that's on your land. But if you have questions, you can always email me at gaines, the number 4, statelands at Gmail. And that's GAINES, number 4, state lands with an S at gmail.com. I would love to answer more questions regarding mineral leasing and any other land questions that you may have. Now, you asked about the Arkansas Democratic Black Caucus. We
Yes,
are in
ma'am.
Forest City tonight. We have had a candidate forum here. We're rallying Forest City and getting them ready and excited to vote in this election season. So
Okay.
we've had a slate of candidates here from the Democratic Party, governors. We've had Chris Jones here talking about PB&J. We've had people like Kelly Kraut, Lieutenant Governor, here talking about the importance of that role. We've had some good people, U.S. Senate candidates, talking about the importance of having representation in Washington. So tonight has been a very powerful night. And you can always go to the Arkansas Democratic Black Caucus page. You can follow on Facebook and learn of different places that the Arkansas Black Caucus traveled throughout Arkansas. We will
Yes,
be
ma'am.
hitting up all 28 of the Black Belt counties. I encourage you to keep up with us and then show up and show out at these events that will be held throughout
I
Arkansas.
look forward to bringing all of you guys on the forum. As a matter of fact, send my regards to Mr. Cedric Williams out there if you see him this evening. Um,
Okay.
I want to give it before we get out of here. I want to thank Mr. Frank Burton for putting this whole thing together, and I also want to thank my friend Gene Autry because we had a Zoom meeting with Mr. Jesse Jackson some months back, and that's where I met you on the Zoom meeting. And
Yes.
your voice was so like a doctor, like it was just a little fire under me. Like it just made hey, I need to meet her. I don't know why I
Oh,
need to meet her. She sounds the power in your voice. And I'm just glad that you tapped in with us.
thank you.
Thank you for your time. I wish you the best of success. And if you need anything from the Real Underground, please come back. Let us know what's going on with your campaign. And we'd like to help you in any kind of way we can. And thank you, man.
Well, Darren, thank you so much for having me on this evening. It has been a pleasure conversating with you. And I just want to thank everyone that put questions in the chat. Your questions are so welcome and they're so necessary. But I encourage you to follow me. You see my Instagram, Goldie for State Lands, my Facebook tag, Goldi Gaines, my Twitter, Goldi Gaines. So you can get in contact with me just by typing in Goldi Gaines. And I look forward to hearing more from you. And I just want to thank you again, Darren, for having me on, as well as Mr. Frank Burton. Um, and we're going to continue forward. Reverend Jesse Jackson, you know that with the Rainbow Coalition, we're pushing that unity. We need all ethnicities represented throughout Arkansas.
Yes, ma'am. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.